Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing, and monetizing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free. And it's 100% ridiculously easy to use. We find it really convenient for Night Moves Radio and our Cloverleaf Radio network. We record when it's best for us, and best of all, we can record on the go or at home. With this easy app, it makes doing our show so much fun and very easy. Anyone wanting to start a podcast? I suggest using Anchor. Perhaps it'd be a great starting point for you. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in just one place. And it's free. It won't cost you a dime. You can use it right from your phone or from your computer. There's no buying any fancy electronics. Anchor has a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast, so it sounds great. There's no professional editing skills, no fancy buttons, one tool. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. There's no submitting it. They will actually submit it to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, and many more. You'll be heard everywhere. No sweat. You'll be famous pretty soon. And you can easily make money from your podcast. No minimum listenership. As soon as you start recording, you're going to make money as soon as people start hopping on and listening to you. There's no minimums. You can start making money right away. So how about you just get on it and start making your podcast? Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You'll have a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, if you come listen to us on Night Moves Radio or Cloverleaf Radio, leave us a comment. We'll come listen to your podcast. We'll help each other out.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening. This is your good friend, the very esteemed and well-travelled Clarence Copernicus Cloverleaf, welcoming you to another exciting edition of Cloverleaf Radio, hosted by the host with the most, Jimmy Falcon. You can always feel free to call in at 602-753-1883 to ask a question to the host or any of his well-established guests. Just please remember when calling in to be on your best behavior. This is a G-rated show, you know. Hey, that was a wicked rhyme. Anywho, just be sure to be kind and courteous. Now, on to the main event. Hello to all our dear listeners. This is your spokesman with a plan, Clarence Cloverleaf, coming to you after somewhat of an absent spell, as since December of 2018, I've been sailing around the world. From Italy to Canada, I've been making my way across this beautiful land of ours, searching for new meaning to an older existence. I'm happy to say I'm back now, and here to let you in on some stuff going on as of late. In mid-2018, the Cloverleaf Radio Network expanded to include our friends Josh and Ariana over at Night Moves Radio. It's been a splendid partnership, and Jimmy, Jane, and I are happy to welcome them to the family. They also brought along Soul Stories, which features inspiring poetry, read by the author herself, Ariana Cherry. We've been brought onto many new networks, including Anchor, the ASY Podcasting Network, WordPress, Podbean, even iHeartRadio. We've also started a fresh new YouTube page, as well as updating our Twitter, Blog Talk Radio, and expanding our network to new segments, more radio reunions, all news guests, and so much more. Also, the Cloverleaf Radio Network, Jimmy, Ariana, and Josh, will be appearing upcoming at two conventions, SilCon and Dark History Con. SilCon will be held September 6th and 7th, 2019, at Cross County Mall in Mattoon, Illinois, while Dark History Con will be held October 26th and 27th, 2019, at the City Center Performance Venue in Champaign, Illinois. Be sure and check out the newest guest appearances, as well as find out about up-to-date ticket information by visiting www.silcon.com or www.dhhcon.com. Although, please note, Silcon is a free event. Thank you, everyone, for continuing to follow and support us for 11 years. This is Clarence Cloverleaf saying good day to you.
All righty, we're back for another exciting edition of Cloverleaf Radio. I'm the host of the Most Jimmy Falcon, and before I get started today, I wanted to take a minute out to, express some sadness that's been going on. A dear friend of mine who was a loving husband, a loving father, a loving animal father, and one of the coolest guys I know, my dear friend Jeff Upton, passed away this Friday. It's been really hard on me. I was going to go over there Wednesday and see him, but I myself I've been having some issues, so I thought, I'd wait till I felt better to make it back over there. Unfortunately, I got the news, and it's kind of hit me hard. Jeff was really nice. I'd known him since 2013. We traded toys back and forth. He's where I got a lot of my best figures that I have at the conventions, that I have in my collection, people I've interviewed and stuff. A lot of the cool, rare stuff I have, I got from knowing Jeff and trading with Jeff and buying some stuff from him. And it was just a great friendship. He was a tall, fun, geeky guy just like I am, who loved professional wrestling and toys, and was always asking me who I was going to interview. And this show is dedicated to him because I know that, Jeff was so much like me. I'm sure that Dawn of the Dead or anything with zombies was kind of on his level. And I would hope that he would have listened. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Our guest today is going to be actor-director Marty Schiff, of course, best known for working with George Romero in such films as the iconic original Dawn of the Dead, also Creepshow, Knightriders, and other things. He also starred in the Nickelodeon hit kids variety show Out of Control, starring Dave Coulier, and has appeared on such iconic shows as Knightriders, Sledge Hammer, Stingray, Dallas, and so much more. He's also a film school professor. I'm going to be calling him in just a moment. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to keep shoving Clarence down your throat. I'm going to replay the intro, so just please deal with me. I only have 3 options in my audio clips, and they're all full. So I will hurry back as fast as I can so I don't have to bore you. And if anything, if you're listening to the archive, just skip through this part.
Good evening. This is your good friend, the very esteemed and well-traveled Clarence Copernicus Cloverleaf, welcoming you to another exciting edition of Cloverleaf Radio, hosted by the host with the most, Jimmy Falcon. You can always feel free to call in at 602-753-1883 to ask a question to the host or any of his well-established guests. Just please remember when calling in to be on your best behavior. This is a G-rated show, you know. Hey, that was a wicked rhyme. Anywho, just be sure to be kind and courteous. Now, on to the main event.
Hi, this is Gary Redenbacher, grandson of Orville Redenbacher. Join me in Cloverleaf Radio and as we reminisce about my grandpa and popcorn.
All righty, we are back. We went from popcorn to zombie killing and so much more because we are joined by actor, director, producer, professor. So many things that I could call him, but Marty Schiff is with us. How's it going, Marty?
It's going great. Thank you.
I won't keep going because maybe I'll pick something out that just doesn't fit your personality, and maybe it wouldn't go, or maybe I say Harley Davidson or something, and you don't like motorcycles. Who knows? But it's a great honor to talk to you today. How's everything going?
Everything's going great. It's an honor to be here.
Well, I guess starting off, I usually start off with asking people about their childhoods and where they grew up. One of your friends wanted me to ask about throwing snowballs in your yard when you were a kid, because anymore, especially even from when I was a kid 25 years ago, there's not very much snow around. So the big snowball fights and building big snowman days are kind of behind us.
Well, I grew up in Pittsburgh and in the east suburbs of Pittsburgh, and snowball battles were just a way of life. And if I know who the friend is, we decided to try and stop the school bus by rolling a giant snowball that we would roll down the hill of my front yard in front of the school bus to try and stop it so we didn't have to go to school that day. And so about half a dozen of us worked on this giant snowball, and when the bus was turning the corner, we rolled it down the hill, and basically the bus just drove over it, and we had to go to school anyway. So today, I'm sure in today's world, all of us would have been arrested for terrorism or something else, but that was probably the biggest snowball story that I had back in the day.
And that's what's great about stuff like that. It's harmless. It really is a snow. I mean, if it was 600 pounds, it might impact the bus. But in all reality, a snowball is a snowball as long as it doesn't have much mass to it.
That's exactly right. And the buses of Churchill Area High School were very, very tough. So we couldn't stop it with a snowball.
And, moving into, getting into your career, you were a theater student at Point. I knew I was going to mess that up. Point Park College. And you started your film career with George Romero and Dawn of the Dead, which has become so iconic. And there's not very many people that say, well, my first film has become an iconic legacy. How did you meet George? You've worked with him for so long. And, how do you feel, unfortunately no longer being here with us anymore?
Well, I was very fortunate, actually. George had come to see a play called Philemon that we were doing at the Pittsburgh Playhouse, which was owned by Point Park College. And John Amplis, who you may know from the film Martin, and from Dawn of the Dead, and from Creepshow, and from Knightriders, and a bunch of stuff. John was cast from this play in the role of Martin. But I was in the play. George and I met that night at the Playhouse. When they were doing Dawn of the Dead, John Amplis actually was doing the casting. So he came to Point Park to the acting classes at Point Park. They needed someone to do a stunt with Tom Savini. For the fans that are familiar with the film, it's the stunt where Tom gets hit by a truck and flies in the air, and a zombie catches him, and I'm the zombie that catches him. And so they came to my acting class, and they said, we need someone to do be a zombie and basically get hit with a truck for $25. And I jumped up because I always wanted to go to Hollywood. My goal was film and television. And in those days, you had to do theater. You really didn't have the options for film schools like you do today. So I jumped up thinking everybody was going to jump up, and I was the only one standing. So in a way, I was cast by default in the movie, So I went out and I did the stunt with Tom, and that's where Tom and I met. And Tom and I have been, fast friends since that day, and have worked together many, many times. Have been on-screen partners several times, actually. But George came up to me after that bit and said, hey, man, I need someone to get hit with a sledgehammer and thrown into a garbage can at the Monroeville Mall on Saturday night. And are you interested in doing it? And I said, do I get another $25? And he said, yeah, you do. I said, I'm in. So I went to the Monroeville Mall and did the stunt with Tasso. Tasso Strabakis was Sledge in Dawn of the Dead. And that same night was the first night that the bikers were in the mall. And they needed a couple of actors to sort of round out the bikers. And so George knew I was still in the house, basically getting out of makeup, out of zombie makeup, and asked me to be a biker. So I ended up working another 25 days on Dawn of the Dead as a biker. And that's how it sort of all got started. While I was there, I met Clayton Hill, who was basically working on when you worked for Romero back in those days, you wore many hats. You know, you didn't just do one thing. And Clayton and his wife Sharon Hill was the nurse